Hi, I'm Deborah Dahab, your expat coach and intercultural psychologist, and today we're going to talk about how to prepare your scouting trip for success. Now, if you are preparing for a move abroad, chances are you might want to visit the country that you want to move to. Sometimes that is impossible and you just go blind, which does happen sometimes. But if you can, most people want to visit the country. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 important tips so this scouting trip is successful and you get the most of this time in the new country. Now, these 5 tips are really important to take into account before you go on the scouting trip. Now, if you're already there, of course, some of them you can still apply, but this is really, really relevant if you are preparing for your scouting trip. So let's get to the tips. Tip number 1. This trip is not a vacation. And why do I say this? Because sometimes we look at this trip as a time of enjoyment and getting to know new places. And we associate that with a vacation. But it's not. A scouting trip is an expedition with a mission, with a purpose. You want to have a very defined and explicit purpose that you want to achieve, a goal that you want to achieve with this scouting trip. You want to come back to your home country after the trip with information that will help you make informed decisions, like which neighborhood do I want to move to? Which city do I want to move to? What are the best places? Should I have a car or not have a car? If you're going with kids, where's the best schools to enroll my child? So as much as it is tempting to approach this trip as an exploratory, romanticized trip, it's not. The worst thing that can happen is that you get back home after a huge investment of time, money, energy, expectations, and you realize you forgot to ask important questions, you forgot to get important information. So it is not a vacation. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have a few days off, that you can't enjoy yourself, but the overall mindset is that you want to gather information for a specific outcome, for a specific decision. And keeping that in mind will help you keep yourself focused on what you need to know, what outcomes you want from this specific trip. Now, tip number 2 has to do with how this scouting trip and ultimately how the move abroad is aligned with your life long-term goals. Now, it's this moving abroad is a life-changing event, really. I mean, you're giving up a place in your home country, uprooting, changing everything to move to another country, to another culture. It's a huge investment of time, money, energy, emotional investment, and you really want to make sure that this move abroad, the goals that you have with this move abroad are aligned with the goals you have for your life, for the long term of your life. It's also important that you really tap into how this move abroad will get you closer to your long-term life goals. Now, why are we doing this before the scouting trip? Well, because now is the time to look at it in the big picture, because the investment is still quite small, right? You're still in the scouting trip mode, and the investment is so far a trip to this country to explore and to gather information. Now, this leads us to tip number 3, which has to do with getting everyone involved in the process. Now, if you're moving with other family members, a spouse or children, or other members, like maybe a parent, it's really important that everyone is on board and this move abroad and that this scouting trip is aligned with their long-term life goals as well. So, why is this important? Because there will be challenges along the line. There will be bumps in the road. And if you find yourself suffering and having a hard time with something you don't really even know why you're doing or what you're doing it for, it just makes everything a lot more difficult. So you really want to make sure everyone is aligned, everyone who is going with you to this new part of your life as in moving abroad. And also, during the scouting trip, it's really important that everyone who will move is aligned with the process. Now, maybe not everyone can go on the trip. So how can you make sure everyone is participating in the process even from afar? Well, you can FaceTime and create videos. You can send pictures. You can involve them. If you're viewing an apartment or viewing a specific place, you can show them on video. It's not the same. No, it's not the same, but it's as close as you can get given the limitations of the distance. But it makes people who are far away a little bit closer and feeling part of the decision-making process. Now, tip number 4 has to do with recording and registering everything. You're going on an expedition. You're going on a mission. So do not trust your memory because after a couple of days, everything will get jumbled up. You won't remember the names of the places you went. Everything's going to get mixed up in your mind. So what do? You write everything down. Have a designated notebook for all of your notes, impressions, likes, dislikes, everything you feel and think about what you're seeing and living and experiencing during this trip. You want to write it down as it happens. Some people like to do audios, so you can record it on your phone, or videos. Doesn't matter how you record it, as long as you have it registered. If you're going with someone else, if you're going with another family member, have this other person do the same thing on their own, okay? Because it's really good to compare and contrast your impressions with other people who are going with you to move abroad. One tip also that has to do with this is remember to download and label everything you register, every video, every picture. Do that every single day. At the end of the day, you can make it like a thing during dinner to do that, because you will forget. If you spend 2 or 3 days and you don't download and label things, after a while, you will look at a picture and say, where the hell is this? I do not remember. I have no idea. So it's really important to do that frequently, and to make sure that your memory is as fresh as possible when you do label these videos and pictures. Now, the last tip number 5, has to do with planning. So as we mentioned in the beginning of the video, you are going on a mission, on an expedition to gather information. So make sure every day you have your goal for the day, one thing that you want to accomplish, maximum 2, that you want to accomplish, or information you want to gather that will help you get closer to making the decision that you want to make. It's really important to have this written down, and of course everyone who's on the trip should be aligned with these goals. And you can also share them with whoever is helping you, a guide or any agent that might be helping you in this trip abroad. Now, all of these tips are super useful. And if this resonated with you, if this something that you think was helpful, feel free to take a look at my e-course called How to Prepare Your Scouting Trip for Success. It's comprehensive. We go deep into all of these aspects. You will have worksheets and assignments, and, for example, a day-to-day schedule for your scouting trip that you can download. You can print it out and you can write it and use it as a guide for your planning, looking into the goals, looking into all these tools that I mentioned. In the e-course, we go deep dive. I'll put the link in the description box. If this is something that interests you, go ahead, take a look. And the e-course includes a 1-hour session with me where you can talk about ask questions, talk about specific questions that you have, troubleshoot, share your plan with me, and we can go over it, anything you want. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great time in your scouting trip. See you next time.